In my last video, we discussed the science of vapor movement and the perm ratings of different materials. If you haven't watched it, I'll link it up here. Today, we're going to discuss the location of vapor barriers or vapor retarders in different wall assemblies in different climates. We know that materials are divided into different classes based on their ability to allow water vapor to pass through. Class 1 materials are vapor barriers. They barely allow any vapor through. Class 2 and 3 are vapor retarders. The first wall assembly we're going to look at is stud cavity insulated walls, which are the most common construction method in the States. Wood studs are placed 16 or 24 inches on center and are filled with insulation and finished with drywall on the inside. The outside has OSB or thermoply sheathing, a house wrap, and then siding like brick, vinyl, hardy plank, etc. In cold climates, water vapor will travel from the inside out. A vapor retarder must be used on the interior side to limit the movement of water vapor through the wall assembly. Any water vapor on the outside can still dry out provided your cladding is properly vented. Stud cavity insulated walls in warm climates work the opposite way. Water vapor will travel from the outside in. A vapor retarder must be used on the exterior side. The second is exposed CMU or solid concrete walls. These are typically furred out with wood or metal studs on the inside, filled with insulation, and then finished with drywall. In cold climates, you need a vapor retarder behind the drywall since vapor wants to travel from the inside out. In warm climates, you do not need a vapor retarder because concrete acts like one. It restricts the flow of vapor and prevents condensation. ICF construction or insulated concrete forms are different because the concrete wall is protected with EPS foam on both sides, which act like a Class 2 vapor retarder. ICF manufacturers claim that the wall is waterproof and you don't need any additional vapor retarders as long as you control the indoor relative humidity levels. Next, let's look at brick or stone walls. They consist of an independent masonry layer that is tied to the main structure, an air gap, air barrier and vapor retarder like Tyvek, OSB, stud cavity insulated walls, and then drywall on the inside. These are called moisture storing claddings because they absorb a lot of moisture when it rains. When sun hits this wet cladding and starts to dry it out, it creates high humidity conditions which can drive water vapor to the interior irrespective of whether you live in a cold or a warm climate. This complicates the wall assembly because you have to deal with a two-way movement of vapor. To solve this, you must provide a well-ventilated cavity or air gap behind the brick or stone wall to let water and vapor escape. This gap must not be filled with mortar. You can also use exterior insulation or a sheathing membrane to limit the vapor drive. It is very important to not use vapor barriers with the brick wall system, only vapor retarders. A stucco wall typically consists of a 3-coat stucco system on metal lath, a building wrap which acts like an air barrier and vapor retarder, sheathing, cavity insulated walls, and then drywall on the inside. The stucco can also directly be applied to CMU walls. This system is very similar to the brick and stone wall assembly we just discussed because it is very vulnerable to water. The use of continuous exterior insulation with drainage channels is generally recommended with stucco walls. Another scenario is the use of vapor impermeable insulation like thick XPS, polyiso, or closed cell spray foam on the exterior of a building. In cold climates, you must not use an additional vapor barrier on the inside. This wall relies on vapor drying towards the interior. It's a more sensitive wall. However, in warm climates, this system works well since it restricts the movement of vapor from the outside to the inside. This study of water vapor movement in buildings is still fairly new and is constantly changing because construction techniques and methods and products are changing. For example, when people started using insulation in their walls in the 1930s, they noticed paint peeling off the walls and the siding too. When they realized that temperature differences and water vapor were the culprits, they started using polyethylene or plastic sheets in their walls. That solved the paint peeling issue, but mold started growing in their walls. On the backside of drywall, and on the insulation too, because vapor was trapped in the walls. So now the consensus is to avoid using vapor barriers and plastic sheets. Water vapor is going to get into your walls either through air or through your foundation. You can't avoid it, so let your walls dry out by using vapor retarders. Related to this is the use of vinyl wall coverings, foil-faced batt insulation, and polyiso. They are essentially vapor barriers too and can cause mold. There are certain instances where you'd want to use a vapor barrier. Interior pools and museums, which have high interior humidity levels, need a vapor barrier to stop an excessive amount of water vapor from entering the walls. You also have to comply with certain code requirements that vary depending on the climate zone that you live in. In warm climate zones 1, 2, 3, and 4, the IRC or International Residential Code does not require or prohibit the use of vapor retarders. It's recommended to use a Class 2 or 3 vapor retarder on the outside of buildings and avoid using Class 1 vapor barriers. In cold climate zones 5, 6, 7, and Marine 4, the IRC requires either a Class 1 or 2 vapor retarder on the interior side of framed walls to prevent water vapor from traveling from the interior to the exterior. Another trend or consensus in the building science community is to prioritize air barriers and stop air infiltration. A study has shown that in most cold climates, over an entire heating season, a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of drywall will let just a third of a quart of water through by diffusion. But if that same sheet of drywall has a tiny 1 inch by 1 inch hole, moisture-laden air can sneak through and bring in 30 quarts of water. There's a big push towards continuous exterior insulation like Rockwool Comfort Board to stop air infiltration and reduce thermal bridging. It is installed in front of the sheathing. Since we're building airtight homes, it's very important to control the moisture and relative humidity levels inside your home to slow down water vapor movement through your walls. We can do this with mechanical ventilation systems like heat exchangers, HVACs or heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, as well as HRVs or heat recovery ventilators. These systems remove moisture and provide fresh air to your home. The air exchange rate on the systems is very important. We'll discuss that in another video. I find this whole discussion of vapor control very interesting because it is constantly moving. We start with a new method of construction or building, then face an unforeseen issue, then invent products to fix that issue, and by that time, construction methods have changed again. It's a constant search to find the ideal building. Making this video was very difficult because every website says something different. Use a vapor barrier. Don't use a vapor barrier, only vapor retarders. You must use continuous exterior insulation. You don't really need to use continuous exterior insulation. The mixed advice and studies are frustrating. Right now, the industry is moving towards continuous spray foam insulation, inoperable windows, and even continuous exterior insulation that act like air barriers and stop any air infiltration. Only time will tell if this construction technique is the best way to build or if it leads to other negative side effects, and we need to adapt again. I'll provide links in the description to resources I found useful. They're pretty long-winded, so I try to condense the information for this video. I'll also provide a link to my Patreon page. If you'd like to support me, I'd really appreciate it. I'm sure there are people out there who disagree with what I've said in this video, so leave me a comment if you feel like certain wall assemblies should be built differently. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. See ya.